more dead outside before they told everyone to stay at home. It's I feel like they just said you have to stay at home, and everyone's like, ah, I can leave the house now. So
You can't tell me
uh,
what to do. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. There's a lot of stuff closed, but I mean, most of it's still pretty normal-ish, so it's not too bad.
Right on. Well, hey, let's talk about some paintball. Let's get our heads out of this crazy virus stuff. That's the whole purpose of what we're trying to do with Go Sports right now is take everyone's minds off of this craziness. It will be back. The world will get back to normal. This is not going to be the thing that takes down civilization, not with what it currently is. It's going to suck for a little bit,
Right.
but we're going to get back and we're going to be playing paintball before we know it. So let's jump in and talk about your story, man. You have quite, you haven't won a ton of tournaments yet. You're not sitting at the top of the pro ranks. So you don't want to blow your head up. But that being said, it has been kind of cool to watch what Team USA has done the past couple of years, to see, how big the combine has gotten, to see AC Diesel step up, to see you get onto AC Diesel and start your pro career here. So we got a decent amount of things to talk about. Also, like every time we have guys coming on the show, I want to pick your brain and hear what you have to say about, some of these other teams that are sitting at the top right now. I want to hear what you have, what your thoughts are on the Ironman taking the victory and all these other top teams. But let's just jump into your story real quick. I mean, you're a young guy. Obviously, you're young enough to still be able to play on Team USA. So, like,
Exactly.
where did you get your start? Let's talk about that first. Let's talk about where you got your start and how things got going for you. And let's talk about Team USA before we go to AC Diesel.
So I mean, it all kind of started out with me playing paintball like locally, and it was just rec ball. I went out for my birthday, like a lot of people probably did. And I got hooked on it, and there was a couple people there that did play speedball, and I was like, oh man, that's like it's pretty cool. And I got super hyped up when I would shoot them and stuff, and they invited me to go up to Phoenix and play with them. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. I think I was like 15 at the time, so like I had to get my parents to drive me 2 hours to go play something they didn't know what it was. So,
Mm-hmm.
but they did. They took me up there. I had a great time. I ended up making a local team that a bunch of guys started up, and it's kind of just up from there. They did that for about 2 seasons, and then they kind of fell apart. And I went to Phoenix Rising. They really helped me kind of establish what I wanted to do paintball wise. It was a big organization, so they helped me quite a bit. And then that's when I started getting involved with the BKI stuff with Anthony and Lori, and I think that's what did it for me. That helped me a lot. I mean, the stuff they teach
So you're
you and the tools they provide is insane.
so you started at 15. You're 19 right
19.
now? 19, but you just turned 19 not that long ago, right? Because that still
Yeah,
allows
in
you to be able to
January.
play on Team USA. January.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, hey, like, I don't know if anyone's ever read Outliers from Malcolm Gladwell. If you're looking for a book recommendation while you're in quarantine, check that one out. It's fascinating. But people born in January, it's always good because you get to ride that wave of being older within the framework of so it's like ideal, as opposed to my birthday, which is December. I'm on the exact opposite
No.
of that. Uh, yeah, day before Christmas is my birthday. But yeah, so that's a cool story. So you started when you were 15, that's the same age I started at. But that's actually not that long ago, man. I mean, you made a pretty quick rise here. So I got to tip my hat to you. That's kind of cool that you were able to tear up
Yeah.
that quick. So kind of walk me through that then. Because currently you just started your first professional year here with AC Diesel. You're just turned 19 a couple months ago. So you've really only been playing
Mhm.
for a little less than, a handful, about half decade-ish, depending. I don't know when you were 15 and when you started, but so talk to me
Yeah.
a little bit about like how you got that journey. Obviously you said you got locked into the BKI thing, but just fill that out a little bit.
Um, I mean, when I was on Rising, I would always try to surround myself and push myself to be like the better one out there. Um, I would try to I would try to like ask questions. That's the biggest thing for me is just ask questions. Like even if it's a dumb question, like I know the answer to it, but I still go and ask because maybe someone has a different perspective on it, and then I can say, "Hey, I didn't think about that. That's something to think about next time. Maybe I can take a little bit of what you're telling me and a little bit of what I think and put it together." And that helped me quite a bit. In the picture right now, Marcelo comes out sometimes to help, and every time that a pro player comes to Arizona, I try my very best to get in their clinics and stuff. I mean, it can only help. Like they obviously know more. They've been there for a while, and why not take the free knowledge? So I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Or
really helped me.
or pay for knowledge. I mean, there, whatever you want to know. You want to know how to do real estate. You want to know how to run a business. You want to know how to be better at paintball, golf, baseball, whatever it is, whatever your thing that you're trying to seek is. There are people that know how to do those things. Seek those people out.
Hmm.
And if you got to pay them some money, pay them some money. Because if you want that knowledge, you
Exactly.
need to get that knowledge. There are people who are most likely, depending, unless you're just brand new cutting in to the virgin forest of the activity that you're participating in, then there are people out there some that you can consult. So, and again, that's why I'm just such a fan of what BKI has been doing. Okay, so when did you kind of realize this is something that you could play at like a high level? I mean, did you kind of have that early on? Was that a driving force when you first started to do this? Or when did you kind of realize that you wanted to play this game at a really high level?
Um, I'd say probably after going to one of Marcelo's clinics and how he would teach people. That's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to be good enough and well known enough so I could go and teach people how to play. That's the big driving factor. I mean, I do want to play at a high level, and I mean, I'm super competitive, so I want to be up there with a lot of the greater players, but as long as I'm good enough so I can teach people how to play and come up how they want to come up, then that's important to me.
Right on. So, so then talk me how you, or talk to me about how you got on Team USA. What was the because there might be some kids out there that are thinking, okay, that would be amazing. I would love to go to Europe to represent the United States, play against the rest of the best in the world. Whether that be the females, whether that be the under 19s or masters. If you want to play on the regular Team USA, well, you need to be an all-star in the pro leagues, because that's going to be a
Exactly.
little bit different journey for you. I hope you can beat Chad George out in Snake, or Ryan Greenspan or Justin Rabakoff as the two, because that's who you're going to be up against. But different
Yeah.
situation though. I mean, obviously, I really think that the opportunity exists there if you're a young kid, you're a teenager, and you want to get on that team. I've just seen it now the past couple of years and watched it with my own eyes. So talk to me about your journey on Team USA.
So I mean, going to all the BKI stuff, they're obviously the ones that kind of took hold on the Team USA. And so they already knew who I was, and then they reached out to me and says like, hey, we're doing this. We're holding it at the combine. The shots are going to be at the combine, and you might have a good chance of making it. So I was like, cool. I already went to one combine before that, and I had a blast. So I went and did the drills, did pretty good on the drills. I was super nervous, so it's hard to do drills when you're trying to do it for something important. So, but we went there, did the drills, did situational stuff, played a little mini tournament, and stressed out for 4 days waiting for him to call me. But I made it. I was super happy. They called me while I was at work, and I went to the back room. I jumped around a little bit.
Yeah, that's
So
great. That's great. So okay. So they hit you up though. They were like, "Hey, Austin, we think you could probably make it on this team. So why don't you come out for the team?"
they kept hinting at like you could be you have the potential to make the team. Like you should come, and if you do make it, like you can be a real asset to us if you play well enough. And they wanted me to try to make the team. So I mean, they really wanted me to come.
Well, let's talk a little bit about those. You talked about the drills. One of the cool things about the combine and those drills that they have created is that it does give you a regimented way to test, with an observable, objective metric, a time with a specific drill that's run a specific way. Drills plural, multiple different drills. Talk to me a little bit
Mhm.
about the mechanism of that, and because you're really experienced with those, and obviously gun skills. Your talent level is one thing. Harnessing your talent level to be able to get your game so that stuff becomes second nature. That definitely, once you tier up and you become a pro, that just gets you in the door. Obviously, the pro game, even semi-pro, high-level paintball in every single division is won, mostly by playing the chess match in your mind. But it really
Right.
helps to have those physical skills. So building that foundation, because you can't build an amazing house unless you have a really solid foundation, and that's what those drills are. So talk to me a little bit about those drills and a little bit about why you feel you excelled at those. Obviously, you're an athlete. You have a physical capacity to be able to do those, but you had to master those things in order to get high scores. So talk to me a little bit about that.
So the first drill I started off with at the combine was the snake drill. You have to run, dive underneath a little rope that's 3 feet off the ground, I think, and then you crawl. I think it's 10 feet, and you come up, shoot a target with your right hand, and then you switch hands, crawl, come up, shoot a target with your left hand, and then sprint 10 feet. And that one was probably the most difficult for me because I don't play the snake. So I went to the park a couple times and tried to get the sliding down and all that so I could not look dumb trying to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
that was
everyone's dude.
definitely the most
Everyone's the
difficult
most
for
scared
me.
of the snake drill. Like when I was talking to Krista Titus, and she was so deathly afraid of the snake drill. She ended up looking like a champion though, because even though she threw her shoulder out, we didn't even know. But yeah, it's definitely a scary drill.
Yeah, it was rough, but I felt like I did okay. The next one after that was running and gunning. You have to shoot. There's a target right in front of you. There's a target in the center of the field, and there's a target halfway, kind of off to the sideline. You have to shoot all three targets. They're both worth different points while you're running out to the corner, and you have to do that 3 times each side. And that was easy for me. I practice running and gunning at the local field. It's just a rec ball field, but I can shoot at the poles and whatever. You just repetition, repetition, repetition until you're good at it. That helped me. And then the one after that was snap shooting. You come out, you have 5 seconds, or you have 5 seconds to shoot 5 shots at a target. And the faster your time is, the more points you get. And so that one was easy for me. I didn't get the fastest time, but I hit all my shots. So I think that was a little bit more important than trying to go fast and missing.
Totally. Yeah.
So and then after that, at this recent combine, Victor Gamboa and Rusty had their G2 agility course set up, like a mini one, and it was really cool. They tried to run it like an NFL combine, so they had lasers and they were doing like 40-yard dash stats, 10-yard stats, all sorts of stuff. And I think that's really important too. If we can start getting that going, that way you can look at a player and be like, hey, he's not that fast in a 40, but his 10-yard speed is insane, and you don't really run 40 yards on a paintball field anyways. So I think that would be good to keep rolling out.
Yeah, burst speed is important. And honestly, you don't even really need to be all that fast to play paintball at a high level. It helps.
Mhm.
It helps to be small. You're not small. I mean,
No.
what are you, 6'2"? I mean, you're taller
Yeah.
than I am, and I'm not a short person, so you're a pretty big dude. What are you, 6'2"? Probably. I mean, you're only
Yeah,
19.
6'2".
I don't know if you're not over 200 pounds, you're gonna be over 200 pounds in 5 years. I promise you. No matter how good a shape
Yeah,
you
I'm
stay
not.
in, like it's inevitable. It's gonna happen. But yeah, but you don't have to. That's again, I love that's one of the best things about this game is that because it is a game centered around gunfighting and using your mind to get yourself up the field or into certain situations that present themselves. It's a fascinating thing. So you don't have to be the fastest guy. It helps. It helps to be small and fast. It helps to be Kyle Spica
Mhm.
size. Also, I heard that old man Greenspan did pretty good at the 40-yard dash
Oh, he's
from the
fast.
combine. Were you? He still got it. Were you there
He's
for
he's
that?
fast.
Because didn't
He's
he beat Spica?
yes,
I can't remember.
yes,
Like,
yes.
yeah, I was because it depends on who I talk to. If I
Ryan's
talk
fast.
Spica, yeah, he still got it, man. I'm telling you, old man Greenspan still getting it done.
Oh, yeah.
He's not as old
Yeah,
as
I was
Shane,
not ready
not as
for
old
it.
as Shane Howe, but he's getting up there.
No.
Um,
Yeah.
okay, so let's talk about Team USA's experience last year because I thought that was a very interesting story for you guys. You go to Amsterdam, it's pissing rain down the entire weekend. You know, the animals are walking in twos. You guys are playing in, shin deep mud. What was that experience like for you?
So that was my second time going overseas. I played in Spain with the Raiders in the beginning of the season, so it wasn't like that big of a deal getting over there at least. I was kind of comfortable with that, but once we got there, I had a good time. I got to go see the city, do all that stuff, but um, the rain was definitely a factor. It rained
Yeah.
so hard every day, and you literally couldn't even move. Like you had to play pocket. You couldn't go out wide. Going out wide was impossible. But I felt like everyone played well. I mean, everyone was nervous in the first game, which it's understandable. Like, it's a big deal. You went all the way across the world to play paintball for your country. But after the first game, I think everyone settled down a little bit, and we were firing on all cylinders for the prelims. I mean, we lost to Great Britain, I think, in overtime or 1 point at the very end, but I think we needed that. I think it was an eye opener. Like, hey, like we're not that good. Like some of these teams are good. Like you can't sleep on them. You can't play sloppy. Like they'll win if you give them the chance. So I think we needed that loss in the prelims to help solidify us making to the finals.
So
So
talk
and
to me
then
about that team though. So if that event, I'm hoping to God that event actually does happen. I think that with all this virus stuff, I think that once April's going to suck, obviously May is going to be touch and go. Once we get to June, I think that inevitably the world will have to open up. Obviously, with a lot of precautions, we'll probably be wearing face masks and
yeah.
dealing with some stuff we never dealt with before as the world gets into a new normal. But we're going to have to start doing stuff again once we get out of these next couple months. So I do think that you guys are going to be able to potentially, deal or play for Team USA. So talk to me about that roster, though. Talk to me about what you see in each one of those guys and who you feel are going to be the standouts for Team USA. Just some names so people can keep these names, and remember these guys that are going to be in these dudes that are going to be representing Team USA for the under 19s at least.
So I mean, we picked up Jake Madden this season for Team USA. He plays with Baltimore Revo this season. So I think that's going to be a huge pickup for us. Jackson Frey, obviously, I mean, he's a communication beast. Like, he's so loud, you can hear him anywhere on the field. So that definitely helps bring everyone together, keep it all connected. And just some of the returning players, I mean, Ollie, especially after watching him at the
Ruffalo.
beginning of last season. Yeah, after seeing him at the beginning of last season, he's progressed an insane amount. So he's definitely he's going to be something soon, for sure. But I think the roster we have is pretty solid. I mean, we're going there to win this time. I don't think I've ever been so crushed to get a second place before, and it sucked really bad. So we're going over there and we're winning.
Talk to me about that game. That was an intense game that you guys had, that second place. It looked like you had it for a little bit, but it ended up, again, I know, playing in that crazy rain. So that's like basically just dealing with curveball after curveball after curveball. But talk to me about that
Yeah.
experience.
So I mean, we went out there. It was a little nerve-wracking, but it was kind of back and forth until the overtime point. I think the overtime point's the only thing that really stands out because we made mistakes in the other points that, I mean, if we didn't make, we would have won it and wouldn't have even been put in that situation. But the overtime point, we went in and we were up on bodies. Felt like we were doing pretty good. Me and Christian Martinez were pushing up the Dorito side. We had the center locked off, and their snake player just made a good move and came down the snake and shot all of us. No one was covering the zone, and it was one of those things. It's just unfortunate. Um, but I mean, it is what it is. It happens all the time. So just one of those things that we just need to learn from it, and that way, if it happens again when we go back over there, we can make sure the zone's covered and win the tournament.
Yeah, it's just one of those. I remember watching that game. I wasn't over there and I was just biting my nails. Like, I was like, come on, boys, what are you doing? And there's somebody look at the snake side. And I saw that dude make that move. And I was thinking, oh my God, I can't believe this is the way it's going to go down. But that's paintball and it is going to happen. I do agree with you. I think that I think Ruffalo is kind of coming into his own. I think that, I can only go off what I saw. I've heard really good things about Jackson. I saw him play well for you guys. I thought I thought he was trying to do a little too much in Florida when we were at the MVPS. He kept trying to push the issue a little bit, was getting some early deaths, which is uncharacteristic for him. But I think he's got
Yeah,
a bright future in front of him. And then I liked what I saw out of Nita. Obviously, you're a baller. I think that your starting five is looking pretty good. I think Jake obviously is going to be a bonus for you guys too. What I'm looking at though, when I look at the team, like when I look at the guys on the under 19s Team USA, I'm looking at part of the future of the sport because I've already seen how good you guys have gotten just in the past couple years. So if you guys keep this going and stay motivated, and I mean, we're just talking about Greenspan beating people that are 15, 20 years younger than him in a 40-yard dash. I mean, he's like
yeah,
30, I think he's 38 now, 37. But regardless, like that's what's possible here. I could see some longevity. And people are always asking me, what happens when the Dynasty guys retire? What happens when these guys retire? I'm like, next man up, next team up. We've already seen how deep that the pro leagues have gotten with this first event. You see all this new blood that just came on the Ironman that are helping them that help them win that tournament. And things evolve, things change, new faces and new names come in, new people step up to become the heroes. That's every sport. That's paintball too. So it's just one of the reasons I'm a giant fan of Team USA and what you guys got going on. So have you guys been, obviously, like, what's the vibe on the team right now as far as, before we jump into Diesel, because I definitely want to talk to you about that for a while, because I think that's a good story.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the vibe on Team USA right now with this giant, the Rona quarantine happening right now? And everyone's in different areas. Some can play, some can't, depending on where you're at. Some people have access to private facilities, maybe backyard or a local field that still they can get some reps on. Some people have no chance to get reps at all. But how's the vibe on the team because of all this craziness?
I'd say it's pretty good. I mean, everyone's still focused on what they need to do. Everyone's trying to work on little things that they can. It definitely sucks not being able to fly out and practice with them. So, I mean, we were supposed to have a practice at Paintball Fit, but we can't do that anymore because the field shut down and traveling is just it's too much of a risk. So
Yeah.
it definitely hurts not being able to go practice with them, but I think in the long run it'll be okay. Everyone's still focused.
That's good. If you had to make your starting five for Team USA right this second, based on all the things that you've seen and what those guys have done, who would it be and in what position? Just so when people start watching this or hearing about Team USA, they know who to watch for in each position.
Um, let's see. I'd put Jackson in the back center. I think he's really good at that. He's good at connecting everyone, like I said earlier. It's really hard to connect everyone, and he does a really, really well job at doing that. I would probably put Trent and Ollie on the snake side. They could switch out as the one of the two, either or. I think most snakes you need to have two players that can play the one, because that guy's going to go up there, shoot a couple guys, get shot, and someone needs to jet right in there and clean up the game. I would probably play the two on the Dorito side, and I'd probably put Jake in front of me. Either or, we could switch back and forth. I just think that throughout the season, he's going to be playing at a high level. I'm going to be playing at a high level, and I think that putting us together, I'll kind of know what he's going to do already. So I think that'll help.
So let's jump in and talk about AC Diesel. First of all, how did you get onto AC Diesel? Texas team that's been around for a little bit. I mean, they've been playing semi-pro since I think 2015. And I was going through and kind of looking at how they've done, and we've seen them on center court a couple times. If you're down in the divisions, you only get to play those first and second games on center court. So if you're not playing for first or second, then we don't get to see you typically on the webcast. And last year was a great year for AC Diesel. A fifth, the first, fourth, fifth, third, overall, winning the semi-pro series title. But just goes to show you, because anytime, it's like 10 years to make an overnight success, one of those, famous cliches. But if you go back to Vegas of 2016, which wasn't that long ago in the semi-pro, AC Diesel took literally dead last, 22nd at a 22nd. Fast forward a couple years, and with some hard work and tenacity, what's possible? Well, you win the series and you go pro. So I just think that it's a really cool story. But when did you become a part of that story? How did you get in the AC Diesel mix?
I mean, we played them a couple times with the Raiders. We played them in Vegas, and they beat us pretty bad. And then we played them again at World Cup for our fourth game in an X-Ball game. So I had a lot of fun doing that. It was tough, but we were their hardest game in the prelims, so we definitely stepped it up a little bit. And after the game, I talked with Brad McCurley a little bit, and Paulie was there, and they said that they're probably going to win the series, and they're having tryouts looking for people. And they said if I wanted to come try out, and it was an open tryout, so you can sign up for it, but they're just making me aware of it. And so, I mean, I have nothing to lose. I go out there, I either make the team or I don't, and I know what to work on, and then I can come and make something else at another time. So, but I signed up for the tryout, went out to Texas. It was definitely a lot of paintball in a couple days. They tested everything, and I did well enough to make the team. So
Well, yeah, that look, of course you did. Obviously, you're on the squad. You didn't get a ton of reps in Vegas, but you know, I mean, you just made that team. It's a team with a deep roster. There's a ton of guys on
mhm.
that squad, and that was actually one of the things that we were talking about leading into the 2020 season. Is that AC Dallas has a really thin roster, whereas AC Diesel is stacked up with a ton of dudes, which I thought was kind of interesting. So it's kind of hard to get playing time on AC Diesel right now. How does that mix work? Who's deciding the playing time? How is that working behind the scenes? Break that down for me.
So a lot of the guys have been playing together for a really long time. They've grown up playing together and they play well together. And so me, I'm kind of just coming in, so it's a little bit difficult for me to get playing time, but that's also based on performance as well. So a lot of these guys do perform a little bit better than me, and that's fine. I need to work on it. I need to get better, and I'm going to get better. But it's all just who's playing well at the time. Like everyone knows, Mark knows, Gel knows. Like if someone's playing hot, like they're gonna keep playing. It doesn't matter who you are or whatever. If you're playing good, you're playing. If you're not performing, then someone else is gonna go in and do the job. So there's not any favorites or anything. It's just who's playing the best, who's firing on all cylinders, and who's going to give us the best chance to win the games.
Yeah, again, deep roster. You did spread the playing time around, not you, but the coaches. I did obviously like the look that we saw out of you guys. I mean, it was a pretty decent performance in the sense that your very first event, you did win some games. I'm sorry, you won one game. You almost won the last game that you played. You almost went 2-2. But just kind of like walk me through what your thoughts were overall on your performance in general. Again, deep roster, lots of guys getting different playing time. Well, actually, let's start this way. Who impressed you the most on your roster? Who do you really feel came to play at that first event? I felt like there was a decent amount of names out there of guys who were playing pretty decent.
I mean, everyone was playing really good. The one thing that stands out to me was Clint Johnson in the Impact game. There
Mm-hmm.
was one point where he was just, oh, he had heat-seeking paintballs. He was shooting everyone. And I was on the sideline. I'm like, I don't know how he's doing this. He's just looking over there. Oh, there's another guy. Oh, there's another guy. And that kind of blew my mind a little bit. So I think he was playing extremely well, and I mean everyone was. It's kind of hard because we're new to the pro division, and a lot of things are way different than divisionals. You can't. I mean, we can't run the same thing over and over like you can in divisionals because the better pro teams are going to eat that up, and it's not going to work twice. So, but it's all just a learning experience. I think we'll come back after this coronavirus thing, and we'll be way better than we were in Vegas.
Well, let's again talk to me a little bit about. Just kind of want to go a little game for game. The very first game that you guys played, you had a spectacular game against Sacramento DMG, a team that has made Sundays before, a team that's been around for a couple years. Definitely not a team that anyone thought that Diesel was going to walk over. Now, that being said, when I was talking to everyone else in the league, trying to do my homework and figure out, all right, well, you know, what does everybody think about these new teams, these new players? We got some new pro teams coming in. We got Energy Elite merging with Boom. We got Columbus Level coming in. You know, we got AC Diesel, who won the semi-pro division. What does everybody think, right? And everyone, the consensus was that obviously not a huge jump of imagination that AC Diesel would be the toughest of all the semi-pro teams that jumped up because they did win the semi-pro division and did win an event last year in the semi-pro division. But no one really thought you'd come in and just stomp DMG into the ground here in that first game. So how did that one feel?
It felt really good. Everyone was pretty pumped. I mean, that's the first pro experience the team had together, and I mean, everyone was focused going into that game. I mean, everyone just went out, said, "Don't get the emotions, just play your game." Like it's just like practice, honestly. I mean, yeah, you're on a big stage. There's a lot of people watching, but it's nothing that we haven't done in practice. So just go out there, do your thing, talk with your brothers, fight for the guy next to you, and win some points. That was kind of our mentality to that first game.
Who did you guys practice against on the lead up to Vegas? And how'd you guys
We
do?
practiced AC Dallas for the first weekend along with Paintball Fit. They gave us a lot of good looks. AC Dallas is they're good and they know how to control
Mm-hmm.
the zone.
Very
So that
good.
kind of helped us. They kind of helped us adjust to the zone control of the field. And then the second weekend they brought out Infamous, so that was a little bit more fast paced. They like to really press the effort, and that was good for us to adjust to as well. So that way, when we went to the tournament, if someone was pushing down the field at us, we knew how to counter that.
So let's go and talk about your second matchup that you guys had on day one. You're playing against Houston Heat. It wasn't the best game that you guys had. You lost by 5, but you put up 3 points against our defending world champs. Number one, what's going through your head when you're playing Houston Heat? Are you, you can be honest. Is that when you're lining up, because you're new here, man? You're only 19 years old. You just got here. Is
Yeah.
it kind of a little bit of a mind meld sometimes because you're looking across the field, you're like, oh my God, this is Houston Heat. They just won the World Cup 2 years in a row, or this is San Diego Dynasty, or this is Edmonton Impact. Like, does it get in your head a little bit, and then you have to reel it back? Like, no, I'm as good as these guys. I'm gonna go out there and, it's just 5 guys with guns. Talk to me about that experience.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the first point I played against Houston Heat, I was nervous, dude. I mean, like I grew up watching all these people play, and I'm like, oh, like these guys, they're the best ones. And now I get to be out on the field with them and lining up on the box. I look over and I see all those people. I see Chad George, Fedorov, they're all out there, and it's kind of hard to wrap my head around. Like I'm on the level with these guys. Like it's kind of
Yeah.
surreal to think. I never thought I would make it this far, but here we are. I'm on the field with these guys, and I mean, it was an experience for sure. Like gun battling them and stuff. I'm like, I can do this, and I mean, I had a blast. Even though we didn't win the game, I felt like we made them work for it a little bit.
Let's reverse a little bit here and talk about that. What do you think was working with that DMG game? Because you won that game. It was a mercy rule win. What do you think was working? I like that you mentioned Clint Johnson earlier when I was talking about who do you think from your team was stepping up? Because when I was going through different positions and I was asking everybody, like, all right, Sean, where are you playing? Mark, where are you going to play? Austin, where are you going to play? And then I was asking, okay, well, where's Clint Johnson going to play? They're like, he's playing everywhere. And I thought that made you guys less scoutable because he literally did play
Yeah.
almost every single position. I saw him on the D side. I saw him up in the center. I saw him on the snake side. He was definitely all over the field. But again, in that DMG game, everything seemed to be working. Then you guys head into that Houston Heat game, and you guys were kind of grinding your gears a little bit. Couldn't really get any of that offense going. Weren't shooting the bodies that you guys were shooting against DMG. Obviously, shooting those bodies was really big. So what do you think was the difference?
Um, I think that playing against DMG, it was their first game, and it seemed like to me some of the points they were making mistakes that was allowing us to win. Like there's some points where I was like, oh, I don't think we're gonna win this point, and we pulled it back. And I think that was the biggest thing in between because Houston Heat they don't make mistakes, and they're really easy at capitalizing on our mistakes. So I think that was the big thing. We just made too many little mistakes that you can't make against a good team that can fine tune and pick that little thing and make it big. So I think that was the biggest thing.
So let's head into the impact game because now, so you play DMG, you win by the mercy rule. Great first win. That doesn't normally ever really happen. You come in and play your first pro game ever, and you get a mercy rule win against a team that's been around for a couple seasons. Then you play to defending world champs, and you lose by 5. So almost a mercy rule loss. It's like, oh, wait, this is completely different than the first game. We just took a pretty bad beating. Now you have to step up and go and play Edmonton Impact. But that was the closest game that Edmonton Impact had in the entire prelims. So I thought that was kind of a really good look for you guys. You come out, you mercy rule DMG. Then you play Houston Heat, you get beat up kind of bad. Not terrible, but pretty close. And now you have to go play Edmonton Impact. So you're playing Houston Heat and Impact in a row, 2 different days. But that was a 2-point match. 5-3 was the
Mhm.
final score. What did you think
Yeah.
about that Impact matchup?
I thought we did pretty good. I mean, the night before we sat there and watched films, we scouted them, watched their matches on Go Sports, and really tried to figure out what they were doing, how they were lining up, so that way when we would see that we'd be prepared for what they were going to do, and that helped us quite a bit. And we just needed to, we really stayed focused. I mean, yeah. it's Edmonton Impact. They're really good, but we're in the pro division and we can be up there. We're just as good as them. Like I have a paintball gun, they have a paintball gun. I can shoot them, they can shoot me. Like that's the kind of the mentality to have. Like, and we went out there and we did drop the ball on the snake side a couple times. Goldman came down and shot quite a few of us a couple times. I think if we just eliminated that, we would have had a really good chance at winning that game.
Was there a point when in that snake battle, obviously the snake side was super potent on that field in Vegas. It was an incredibly, like the D side had a lot of effective offensive capabilities as well, but that snake side was super crucial. Was that something you guys talked about ahead of time, knowing that you were going to have Mouse and Spica that you were looking at? You guys were going to have to go blow for blow in the snake. It didn't really work out for you, but was that something that you were trying to like take me into the pits? What was going on when that game was close and it was still not completely out of hand? You had a chance to win it. What were you guys talking about as far as strategy was concerned?
We need to get into the snake and we need to keep them out of the snake. And if they were in the snake, we needed to be prepared for either Spica or Goldman to be in our snake really fast. Because I mean that's what they're known for. They get in your snake and if there's no one on the wire, they come all the way down to your side and shoot people. And we really were trying to drill that in to our heads that once they're in the snake, he's going to be on our side. And I mean, we tried. Sometimes we didn't see him get in there. One of the points we didn't see him get in there, and he came down to our side, and we didn't know he was there. And it's just communication errors, stuff like that. They just can't happen against a good team that plays as fast as they do. But I think we did. I think we did really well. I mean, we have definitely stuff to learn from, but I felt the team's communication throughout the weekend was really good. And even in that game, I felt like it was really good. We were making moves. It was just they're a top team, and they were able to capitalize on the little mistakes that we made.
Well, I'll tell you what, as far like I said, two things. Number one, you guys gave Impact the closest game that they had in the prelims, period. They smashed Uprising, didn't let Uprising score a point on them. DMG smashed DMG. 7-1 was that score. So in day one, there was only 1 point that was put up in 2 games against Edmonton Impact. Their fourth game,
Yeah.
after they played you guys, they absolutely demolished Houston Heat. 8-2 was that score. So they had 3 Mercy Rule wins in the prelims. The only outlier there was the game against you guys, AC Diesel, 5-3, close game. Then they go on to beat AC Dallas by 1, and then they lose to the Russians by 6 in the semifinals. That wasn't their game. But Edmonton Impact is definitely looking really good in 2020 once we get out of this damn Rona quarantine and we can get back to paintball, which will happen. Impact's going to be one of the favorites. So the fact that in your guys' first pro event ever, you were able to give Impact your best game, or their best game in the prelims, that was a good look. But, and again, you guys took 11th. You guys were on the, so this kind of leads me into the story for this last game that we're going to talk about here. Before I want to get your thoughts on a couple of these top teams and I'll let you go. But you guys play Uprising. If you win against Uprising, you have a potential, if you win big, you have a chance to move on. What was the mindset going on in the pits, in your guys' meetings, knowing that because you beat DMG by 6, you lost to Heat by 5, and then you barely lose to Impact by 2, that if you have a decent win against Uprising, you go 2-2, you guys might make Sunday on your very first event ever as a pro team. Probably pretty excited about that game against Uprising.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, going into that, we knew that if we beat them, we were probably going to make Sunday. It was going to be close, but we knew that we would probably make it. So everyone was really focused. We decided to just we're going to play the top 5 people that have been playing outstanding throughout the past 3 games, and they're going to go out there. They're going to go blow for blow, and we're going to win this game. And we knew that they loved to push the snake, and when you do shoot them out of their spots, they love to try to fill it recklessly over and over and over. And when they're down on bodies, they love to just run around. Like that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
You shoot someone, yep, he's taken off. It doesn't matter where he's out on the field, like he'll run across the field because no one's expecting that. So we really tried
just
to
Malloy's
say
running
like,
all over
hey,
the place. It's like Alexander
yes,
Berdikoff's on every, once the scramble sets in. But that's why it's fun to, I love watching Uprising play, and they're good sometimes.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So, I mean, we really tried to make sure that they wouldn't be able to run around, and I think we did a decent job at it, but we did make some mistakes. I want to say we got a couple penalties in that game that hurt us, but I mean, it was just mistakes on our part that just can't happen. And we were aware of the mistakes that were happening and they were getting fixed, but it's just one of those games that it just wasn't working out for us.
At one point, you guys had the lead, and I was thinking, man, if Uprising plays like I've just seen chaos out of Uprising before, and like you said, when the scramble sets in, when it's 3-on-3 and the bodies start dropping real quick, I feel that that's one of the best places for Uprising ever to be, as far as what they've been able to be successful at in the past, playing top level teams. I mean, Uprising did phenomenal last year. If we just jump rope again, you guys had a tough bracket. You had to play DMG, a team that's been around for a while, Houston Heat and Impact in your bracket. And then you have to play Uprising, who ended up cracking the top 10 last year. They had a 4th and a 6th at World Cup, 4th at the 3rd event in Philly. Other than that, though, super inconsistent. And that's the tough thing about Uprising, because they took 19th at this one. And so their curse continues, that just inconsistent curse. You have no idea which Uprising team is going to show up. But they're really fun to watch because they love to get after it. They have Brandon Olson and Alexander Borromeo. They didn't even have Graham Arnold there, but they have a very diverse cast of characters there that like to play, like you said, like a bunch of, we named that move the Malloy, Alexander Burtnikoff, where where someone will just take off and make a big move in a 3-on-3 situation that you weren't expecting. And that's one of the reasons that they're tough to play against. But then they played the spoiler against you guys, man. They came back in a really close match that was really fun to watch. And unfortunately, if you guys had won that, we might have a different story, or you guys might have a different story to tell from Vegas. But as it stands, you did lose that one by 1. That must have been a heartbreaking loss, though, right? I mean, it was heartbreaking for me to watch you guys. So I'm watching this and I'm like, oh my God, if Diesel could pull this off and go 2-2 at their first event, what a cool story that would be. And then Uprising finally showed up and was able to not go, because if Uprising didn't win that one, then they would have lost every single game. They'd be down with the Outlaws with 4 losses at that event. So anyway, I just, how frustrating that loss must have been. Pretty frustrating for you guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, we lost and everyone was frustrated for a little bit, but it wasn't like an overwhelming frustration because they were still happy with the way that we performed at the event. It's our first pro event and we went out there and we did our best. Everyone put their heart out onto the field, and that's all you can really ask for. I mean, we know what we need to work on, and everyone's focused on the things that we need to do to get better and be one of the top teams.
I'm just looking at my notes. It's just so crazy how many teams went 1-3. The Outlaws were the only team to lose all of their games. From 11th down to 19th, everyone went 1-3. You guys went 1-3, and Uprising went 1-3. The big difference, though, is your point spreads. So you guys had 17 points for and 19 against for a -2. So you went 1-3 with a -2. Uprising, unfortunately, went 10-23 for -13. Totally different story there. But I definitely agree with you that it was just a good look. You have such a diverse, deep roster. There's so many guys. I mean, you have 9 different dudes on your team. And every single one of these names are guys that I've heard of before. These are guys that I know are good paintball players because I've seen it with my own 2 eyes of what's capable out of these guys. So Clint Johnson was your #1 killer. Nate Roberts was up there as well, too. I just think that AC Diesel is one of those teams that, look, you don't want to sleep on anybody, but if we're talking about all these new up-and-coming squads, AC Diesel is definitely the team, and this is also what everyone has echoed from everyone that I've talked to behind the scenes. You cannot sleep on AC Diesel moving forward. Let's talk, before I let you go, let's talk about your bracket here moving forward. You guys have the Ironman. You guys have AC Dallas. You guys have Level, and you have Aftermath. So I don't think that's the toughest bracket, but look, as we talked about, as we've talked about on all these shows, the pro division is getting deep. So there's no such thing as an easy bracket. The Ironman just proved that by winning the tournament in Vegas, that anything is possible right now in the pro leagues. AC Dallas, best team to have never won a pro paintball event, and they're hungry for it. You guys, that's your brother team. Now at Columbus Level, they also stepped up and were a hyper aggressive team. And then Aftermath also looking to prove themselves. but that's a little bit of an easier bracket than some of these other brackets. What do you think?
Yeah. I do think it's easier than some of the other ones. Columbus Level and Aftermath, they've been kind of hit or miss from what I've seen from how they're playing, so we should be able to beat them no problem if we're all firing on all cylinders. Playing AC Dallas is going to be fun. If you ever get a chance to come to the practices, they're pretty wild and they're really fun. So it's definitely a brotherhood until you step on the field, and then it's I'm gonna come get you. And
Yeah.
then the Ironman, I mean, they played extremely well at this event. I was really surprised and happy to see them play that well because they just got rid of all like the top names. I mean, they picked up A-Rod, but other than that, they dropped a few people and just picked up guys that aren't really well known, and they killed it. And those guys are hungry and they're young and they want to win some paintball tournaments. So I mean, it'll be hard for us, but I think if we watch film and we really focus on our goals, we should be able to beat them no problem.
So yeah, that's the situation. What? Okay, AC Dallas. That's a team you're very familiar with, and it would be a really big boost to your guys' morale if you guys could beat them when it counted. And then Level and Aftermath. It took Aftermath the whole year to get another win. I really liked what we saw out of Aftermath. I like what we saw out of Level, but they are still looking to prove themselves. I do feel that's one of the weaker brackets. I think if we're being honest, I think that's one of the weaker brackets. If you move on to bracket B, the fact that Uprising is in the tier 5 with the way that they played last year, if they show up and they're on, that immediately makes that a more difficult bracket. Same with DMG in bracket
Yes.
C. Energy, same with. So if you let's look at bracket C. You have Damage and Impact. Infamous is in tier 3. Energy Elite, a team that's going to run at you, and then DMG, a team that could play a spoiler. That's a tough one. Again, with Uprising in bracket B, I think that that's a tough one too because of how well New York Extreme. They also went 2-2 at the last event in Vegas, and they made Sunday and took 10th and lost to X Factor. Big though. And then if you look at bracket D with Thunder all the way down, I mean, look at bracket D: Revo, X Factor, Houston Heat in tier 3. I mean, Houston Heat took 9th.
Mhm.
I feel like bracket D might be the bracket of death. What do you think?
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
think
It's kind of
so.
tough to tell, but
I mean, if you just look at it, the Outlaws normally play very well, and they're at the bottom. So if they come and show up, it's gonna be something to watch for sure. Thunder's been playing really well this season too. I think they've progressively just keep getting better and better and better. And if they show up, I mean, there's not going to be an easy game in that bracket. I don't think at all.
yeah, so that's going to be a fun one to watch. It's just all going to be fun to watch. This is why I'm so angry at the damn Rona. The COVID is just the vid is just messing everything up for everybody. I was so excited for 2020. I'm still
Yeah,
excited,
I
but
was
I know we're
excited.
going to get out of this soon. And we're all excited. And we got again ton of content coming at you, everybody. But my God, with how interesting things had gotten in the Pro Division, the fact that Heat took 9th place, that
Mhm.
Infamous with their stack roster took 12th and had a really frustrating event. Thunder 13th. But the fact that everyone from 11th all the way down to 19th went 1 and 3, and then with the Ironman winning, and if that doesn't put a fire under your ass and you're an up and coming player, then I don't know what will, because no one thought
Mhm.
the Ironman were going to win. Nobody thought the Ironman were going to come into Vegas and take first place, except maybe their mothers, maybe their girlfriends, and probably not even that. I mean, it just I'm dead serious. I went to their practices. I was impressed by the talent that they had picked up, and I played on the Ironman for 6 years and won a damn world title with them. However, I didn't think they were ready. Maybe at the end of the year, but that's if that's not a story that inspires you and gives in your mind, pumps up that potential ability to win a tournament, and you're all and for any one of these teams, then nothing ever will. And so it's just a really
Mhm.
cool story. Anyway, Austin, I wish you the best of luck, man. I really hope that everything can clear out here as far as Team
I hope
USA
so.
and AC Diesel is concerned. I think it will. I think once we get past April and May and we get into June, I think things are going to start up again and we're going to hit the ground running. Do you have anyone to thank? Anything that you want to talk about before we sign off?
Um, I mean, I just want to thank BKI Paintball for helping me progress through the ranks as fast as I did. They really supplied all the tools I needed to be successful. I mean, I had to put in the work, but if you're looking to progress rapidly in the sport, I mean, it works. Like, they have the best pro players coming together to set up a program to help you become the best paintball player. And I think that's super important. Other ones are Mark Johnson, Greg Pauly, Joel Stewart, and Austin Brown. They help us at practices. I mean, Mark and Greg and Jell, they really put everything into the sport, and they really put everything into Dallas and Diesel, and they want something special, and they really do have something special. Um, I want to thank Victor Gamboa for always supporting me. He's the Dynasty pick guy. He always helps me. He's always been helping me since forever. Like, because I grew up, he still lives in Arizona, but I played with him against his team when I was coming up, and he's always wanted me to play for him. It never worked out, but he's always been there for me, and I think that's really important to have those people in your corner. And then, I mean, my parents. I mean, none of this stuff would be possible without my parents. My mom and my dad have been beyond supportive. They've canceled their plans. They've spent so much money on me. I mean, there's been a couple of their anniversaries where they've been at paintball stuff, and they didn't mind it at all. So I think that's definitely above all. My parents have been there for me since day one, and I don't see that ever stopping.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. You got to thank the patrons. Yeah, no, Victor's great. And it's always good to have your parents in your corner. And then the people that believe in you, the leaders of your team. Well, Austin, thank you so much for dropping in here to Go Sports Live. Really looking forward to seeing how your journey goes for the rest of the year. We will be following you, hopefully, after you guys take the victory overseas. Maybe we'll bring you back on and talk about that #1 finish. And then also with AC Diesel. And then everyone at home, make sure to check out episode #1 of the Impact series. I'm literally currently at work right now on the voiceover for episode 2. So that's going to be coming at you in a couple weeks. Also, we have Go Sports Tactics, a new show kind of diving into the tactical element of moves, games, specific players, and how they play this game. So that's going to be coming up in the next couple weeks as well, too, as we just try to burn all this time through quarantine. But the world will get back up and running here before we know it. Again, Austin, thank you guys so much. And we're doing this for you guys here, our subscribers out there. Thank you guys so much for your support. Let's keep it going. Let's take this paintball thing to the next level. We'll see you guys next week with Ronnie Dizon on Wednesday and Robbie Goldsmith on Friday. See you then.
The game of paintball is a diverse activity that means many different things to many different people. But to a team originating out of Canada, Edmonton Impact, it means one thing above all others: a quest to be the absolute best. Their adventure started back in 2003 in the rookie division.
Split with Team Peg Factory. We are from Edmonton, Alberta. We're Canadians, right there.
We do a lot of training back here in Edmonton.
Then after over a decade and a half of hard work and perseverance, their Canadian core, surrounded by a select group of elite imported talent, came to define dominance as they railed off 14 wins all over the world during a 4-year run. They hadn't just climbed the mountain, they had become the mountain.
This is it. So big congratulations to Edmonton Impact.
Look your Impact! Way to go!
It says a lot. I think about the boys and 10 years old playing, and you never dreamed of coming this far and how we've come.
And after their success with the win in Vegas last year, they hit a slump with disappointing finish after frustrating performance. But changes were made and new players were brought in. Now re-energized and reformed, Impact's mission remains the same as it always has been: crush everyone on the way to the #1 spot and become the best team ever to pick up a paintball gun. Join us on the Impact series as we dive into all the on and off field drama that drives this legendary squad and their journey to get back to the top. Brought to you only by GoSports.com.